My name is Katie McIntyre, and I'm your host for the podcast, The Loving Cup, Elevate Your Gratitude. Thanks for joining us today. It's Friday, March 29th, 2019, and we're live from the Seneca Falls-based FingerLakes1.com studios. So welcome. So my guests today are both from an organization that helps entertain much of the community here, Seneca Community Players. So I'm happy today to welcome both Don Jansen from Clifton Springs and John King from Waterloo. So welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
So let's start by introducing you to the audience. And so Don, would you introduce us to John?
Sure. This is John King. We met several years ago through the community theater, and he has not only acted but directed in several shows. He is known throughout the area in Seneca Falls, and he's married. He has children. He has grandchildren.
That's great. How many shows, John?
Have I done?
Yeah.
This is the third show that I've directed, and I've done about probably 40 shows that I've acted in since 1988.
That's great.
Yeah, and I enjoy it very much.
It seems so. Yeah, that's great.
Yep.
Would you introduce us to Don?
Don Jansen is, as you may know or may not know, I am the director of this play, Miracle on South Division Street, and Don is my stage manager. And the stage manager is a much tougher job than the director, because she has to write down everything that I tell them to do, and then the next day when I tell them not to do it that way, to do it a different way, she has to make that correction. And then she takes over the show once the show starts, so I'm kind of out of it right now. But I've known Dawn and her husband Eric for probably 10, 12 years now. They are both very, very active in Seneca Community Players. They have children that are very active in the theater as well. They're very, very knowledgeable individuals, and this is kind of shocking, they're very easy to get along with. So that makes it.
That's a bonus.
That's what makes it important, as far as I'm concerned. So that's a little bit about Dawn.
That's great. So before we jump in and talk about gratitude, just curious how each of you got involved in theater.
Sure. I started actually in high school. That's where I met Eric, my husband. Keith Childs, we went to Mid-Lakes, so Keith Childs was the director, and one of his things for his English class was every student was to go and see a show. So that's kind of how I caught the bug. I always worked backstage, never acted. And it just kind of grew from there, being that Eric and I met in the theater, and he was very much involved, both acting, directing, and so that's where it went. And we went from there to community theater. We've always been in community theater wherever we've lived, and then our kids all, because we were at the theater, they were around the theater 24/7. So 2 of our 4 kids are very theater oriented. In fact, our oldest son works in the theater, so
that's
in the
great.
theater world, yeah.
Super. How about you, John?
Mine started in college. I worked backstage in college, and they did nothing but musicals during the summers, and I fell in love with musicals. They're great shows, and I came home. I got married. I had children, and so I just kind of gave it up for a while. And then about 1988, I was speaking with Ralph Sinacropi and Pam Bryan about maybe getting into doing something with Seneca Community Players. And so they said, come on down, just audition. It's not a big deal. Auditions are very easy, very fun. So I did, and I got a part in a play that was at the Holiday Inn at the time. It was a musical. I had one line, and I was in the band of which I don't know how to play a musical instrument. So they were just being very nice to me to let me do that. But after that, I got into comedy, and I love comedy. And I did a farce after that, and we've done a number of farces. In fact, the first one I directed was a farce. And the second one I directed was a rather heavy play. It was called Rabbit Hole. And I enjoyed that, but light comedy is where I am. So that's how I got into it, and that's where I am today.
No turning back.
No,
and I met both of you at an audition.
So. Mm-hmm. Pardon me?
I met the two of you at an audition for Diary of Anne Frank.
Yeah.
Yes. That's right. Yep.
Yep. So let's talk about gratitude. So let's start with if you can each share something that you're most grateful for from the past year. And either of you can go first. There's no order.
So for me, probably what I'm most grateful for, my children are all grown and gone, almost all out of the house. My daughter's in college, so she's gone most of the time. So it was kind of time for me to find me again instead of just mom. And so I went back to school, got my KSAC certification, and I really have my dream job, and I'm very grateful.
And what are you doing?
I am a prevention education specialist for alcohol and substance abuse at Mid-Lakes and at Red Jacket schools.
Important work.
Yes. So
awesome. How about you, John? This past year?
This past year, I took 5 of my family on a trip. I have a granddaughter that goes to school in France.
Yes, I've heard about her from your son.
And so we went over there to visit her. And we took WOW Airlines, which folded yesterday.
It's good you went already. Yeah.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah, it was full. Anyway, it was a 16-day vacation. You know, we were going to go to Germany and Switzerland and Italy and everything. And,
awesome.
On the 3rd day over there, I got deathly ill, and I told everybody I had to go home. I had to go home, and what I was very grateful for is that to a person, my family all said, well, I'll go home with you. Make sure you get there safe. And I said, no, you can't. Absolutely not. You have to stay here. This is a one-in-a-lifetime vacation. So I flew back to Iceland, which is the home planet for WOW. And they wouldn't let me get on the plane there, so they wanted me to stay in the hospital there. And I said, no, I just need to get a room and sleep, which is what I did. And I flew home the next day, and I ended up in the hospital for 3 days. But, I was just very, very grateful that some of the people in my family were willing to give up their vacation to make sure that their old man got home. So that was good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And sometimes we cry on this show. You might make me cry. That's a beautiful story. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how about if you think about your whole life? Is there something that comes out to the top? For either one of you.
Well, it has to be my wife and my children. I mean, what else is there? I sold insurance for 43 years. My wife and my children are everything. And now I'm remarried, and we have 4. My wife Mary has 4 children, and we have 11 grandchildren, and we get to see them all the time. And it's, my whole show that we're doing here is about family, and family's important to me.
Beautiful.
I have to agree with John. Family, not just your closest family, husband, children. They're certainly my life, and now I have a grandbaby that I get to love too.
Congratulations!
Thank you. But my whole family, my mom, Eric's mom, we're very close to her. Our whole family, and that's what it's about: is family, being together. We moved out to Oklahoma in 1992. Raised our children, all but one of them were born out there, and the more we thought about it, we were out there all by ourselves, no family, and it's like, you know what, we really need to go home. And so we did in 2001. the weekend of 9/11, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
We moved home from Oklahoma, so family is everything.
Good. Well, I'm glad you're here in this community.
Thank you.
How about, let's talk about something that you're grateful for now that you were not grateful for at the time.
That I wasn't grateful for?
Yeah, just that time has changed your thoughts on it.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Okay.
What's changed my mind?
And we can skip that question if nothing's coming to mind.
I don't know.
My take on that would be to skip that question.
That's fine. Okay. How about if we can talk about this community, the Seneca Falls community, the region, if you can talk about what you're most grateful for about this area.
Go ahead, Dawn.
I'm not from Seneca Falls. I don't live in Seneca Falls. If I were to move, I would move to Seneca Falls. I think, especially during the summer, when it's warm and you can get outside, there's always something going, always very family oriented, I feel, and very welcoming. I have really, really enjoyed Seneca Falls and being involved. Wish that it wasn't. I mean, Clifton Springs isn't terribly far, but when you're coming every day, it's a long haul every day, to come to Seneca Falls every day. But I am very blessed that Seneca Community Players has allowed us to become part of their family. So
that's great.
It's heaven on earth as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I've lived in Iowa and I've lived in Arizona and California, but it's always great to come home. And I've been in Seneca Falls since I was 5 years old, and it's just a wonderful community. I mean, there's so many things going on, but of course, people will say that about every community that they grow up in. But if you look around at the weather, my gosh, the weather in this area of New York State is absolutely perfect. I mean, we get a little snow, but we don't get tornadoes. We don't get hurricanes. We don't get fires and floods. Like this is God's country. Yeah,
I'm pretty fond of it too.
He put his hand down, and there are the Finger Lakes.
There you go. There you go.
He said, "This is the place."
And are you a lake person? Do you like to be on the lake? Do you swim or fish or sail?
Well, I grew up on the lake. We had a house down on Route 89, my mother and myself. My father passed away when I was 5 years old. But yeah, I was on the lake almost all the time in the summer. Yeah, I really enjoyed the lake. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That's nice. Yeah, I grew up on a lake in New Hampshire, so it feels very much like home to be near a lake. So I like it too.
New Hampshire's a beautiful state.
It is beautiful.
It is. Yeah, I have lots of family hoping I'm going to move back, but I've lived in New York much longer than I lived in New Hampshire at this point. But what about if we can talk about theater and your love for theater and what you're grateful for about your theater experience?
I worked with Bob Newhart once when I was in college on a show, and we would go into his dressing room with him, and we would play cards, and we would drink shots of vodka. I think that's what turned me on to plays.
What year was that?
That was when I was in college.
Okay.
He was doing a summer theater program, and he was in the show Harvey.
Okay.
And but theater, it's just everything. I mean, every show we put on is different. The one that we're going to put on tonight isn't going to be the same as the show we put on last week. Things are changing. This show that we're doing it's about families, you know, and in all families there are conflicts. But in most families, again, they're quickly and they're peacefully resolved, and that's the kind of family that we're working with. We have a mom who takes a firm hand in the show. There are children, and when I say children, I don't mean children. They all have their own homes and they have their own lives, but within this play we see tolerance, we see bigotry, prejudice, self-esteem, self-deprecation, and acceptance. And most of all, through this entire play, we see love, family love, so strong that it will bring tears to your eyes. I'm trying to make you cry. And that's what I love about this play. What I love about theater is the expectation of what's around the corner, because you never know what's going to happen, you know. We did a show, Moon Over Buffalo, back in 1997, and it was directed by my very, very good friend Walter Wolf, and we won the state tournament with that show. I don't know. Theater is wonderful. I'm at a loss for words how good theater is, and we can't let politics get in the way of the arts. We need theater. We need movies. We need radio. We need all of these things. If you don't support theater, then you're going to lose theater.
Yeah, and it's so important because it's an event, right? People need to get up out of their house and they need to go and they need to be present, and the audience is part of the experience. And I mean, I would never give those experiences back.
Right.
And community theater is just as important as Broadway theater, like maybe more important, because you're supporting your friends and your neighbors, and
you're creating,
and everybody's doing it for free.
Yeah.
Nobody gets paid, you know.
And you're creating your own little family within a family, you know. Even though most of my family's always involved when we do a show, I've met John and I've met you, and and it's just, and so now that circle gets a little bit bigger, you know, and it's because of theater. You know, it's everybody's coming together for the same thing, and we're all learning from each other and growing with each other.
So folks can come to the show tonight, right? So should we make sure people know about that?
In fact, it's mandatory that they come.
Everyone watching
to the show tonight. Yes. 8 o'clock.
Okay.
Right here in this building, Academy Square, right down
Second
below
floor.
us. And also on Saturday night at 8 o'clock, and on Sunday at 2. So 3 more shows to go. If you come each night, you'll see the differences.
Oh, that's like a special bonus trio.
There you go.
And how much are tickets, and where can people get them? Can they get them at the door?
They can get them at the door. They can get them at Women Made Products and the Copy Shop.
Okay, both downtown Seneca Falls on Fall
And you
Street.
can also get them online.
Okay.
At the SCP website.
Okay.
They're $15 for a ticket, and if you have a coupon from the paper, it's $2 off.
$2 off.
Okay, and that's in the Finger Lakes Times had a coupon, or?
Yeah,
Yes,
Finger
they
Lakes
ran one.
Times had a coupon.
Yeah.
I think if you go down to maybe the copy shop, she might have some coupons hanging around for you.
She probably made some copies of them, right? I mean,
I'll bet
she
you.
could do that.
I'll bet you.
She's got that ability. So it's Miracle on South Division, is that right?
Yep, South
Yes.
Division Street.
Miracle on South Division Street, and it's tonight, which is Friday the 29th, tomorrow, Saturday the 30th, and Sunday the 31st. So 8 p.m. on Friday and Saturday, 2 p.m. on Sunday. And there's space for folks. It's not sold out yet, right?
No, we're not sold out.
Okay, so folks should come. Do you want to make a pitch to people on why they should come, John?
Absolutely. They should come because they need to support community theater. I think everybody needs to support community theater. You need to support the arts. And the show's a fun show. It's a good show. We have excellent actors and actresses in this show.
You'll laugh. It's funny. You'll laugh. You'll almost cry. Maybe you will cry, and then you'll laugh again. So
yeah. We have Joanne Saraceno. She plays Clara Nowak. Sarah Lairs, thank you. She plays Ruth Nowak, Melissa Witchy, Beverly Nowak, and William Barr, Jimmy Nowak. And it's a story about a family that grows up in Buffalo, New York. The area where they grew up falls on hard times, as many places in many metropolitan areas do today. Ruth, one of the sisters, calls a meeting because she's got something very, very important to tell this Polish Catholic family. And she comes in, and there's give and take between all the family members, which is the bickering, but they all come together at the end, and it's quite surprising what she has to tell this family.
Okay. You've piqued my curiosity.
I hope so. That's the reason.
That's good. That's good. So before we go, we have a few more minutes. I wanted to just hear from you, from both of you, if you've thought about gratitude before today, if that's something that's part of your life or something that you think about.
I think for me, I've always had gratitude, but I think for me, Clifton Springs has had several I would say tragedies happen in the last year. And so I think I'm much more in tune with being grateful lately than I have. We've had 2 young people in our community that all of our kids grew up with be in terrible accidents.
That's awful.
And they have both, they're both recovering and both doing very well. But it just really, brings that gratitude into, how grateful we should be for what we have. And having a grandbaby helps me be grateful too, because that's a new kind of love. So yes, I think my gratitude has changed. My outlook on gratitude has changed in the last year.
Beautiful. How about for you, John?
Gratitude is not something that I think about. I mean, it comes when you're thankful for something that somebody does or something that happened. I'm sure I have gratitude probably pretty much all the time, but I can't put my finger on it. That if that happens, I'll be glad. Gratitude is I don't know the term. It's something you just have to grab onto, and it'll come your way. I have gratitude that my wife, I hope, loves me. Gratitude of all the kids that I have, both mine and our stepchildren and our grandchildren. There's gratitude there. I think it just comes as it comes.
Beautiful. Anything else that you'd like to add?
Thank you for inviting us and having us on your show.
Thank you for coming.
Now, do we get paid for this?
It's kind of like community theater.
Oh.
So I can pay you in gratitude. I'm grateful that you came to be my guest today. I appreciate it. And I'm grateful for what you're doing with community theater. I think it strengthens communities, that folks can come together and be entertained and be inspired, and it's all put on by our friends and neighbors for it's your volunteer hours that do that. So be excited to see what other shows are coming this year.
No, we have Calendar Girls coming.
Yep. Calendar Girls, and we're doing in the fall, we're doing The Odd Couple, both male and female.
Oh, fun.
So that will be fun. It'll be alternating nights. So we'll run it 2 weekends and do alternating nights. So
Very
that'll
cool.
be fun.
And there's a cabaret coming up in June.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Another cabaret, and then of course Merry Christmas, George Bailey.
The
radio play.
Yes,
Yep.
that's always done.
Yes.
each December.
That's
So
Always
so that-
done.
So that's ours.
isn't it
That's our
part
season.
of the It's a Wonderful Life weekend?
But before we had It's a Wonderful Life, we didn't do that show.
Okay.
I think it's wonderful that we have It's a Wonderful Life here.
That's wonderful. It is. It's a great weekend.
So again, what's the website where people can go and get information about this show, this weekend, and other shows?
SenecaCommunityPlayers.com.
Okay.
No.
.org.
SenecaCommunityPlayers.org. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, I hope it's a great show. Good luck to both of you. That does bring us to the end of our time today. So thank you for tuning in to this podcast, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks with more guests. If you or someone you know would be a good guest, together with a friend or family member, please let me know. You can contact me through Facebook or through fingerlakes1.com. So until then, share your gratitude. Have a great day.